Welcome to the Sam the Answer Man podcast. For 30 years, Sam Ventola has been an attorney, hearing officer, professor, and mediator. Now he's here to answer your legal questions. Sam the Answer Man, Law Made Simple. Here's your hosts, Sam and Gina Ventola.
Everybody, welcome to the Sam the Answer Man podcast. I'm Gina.
And I'm Sam.
And we're so glad you're here. We're so glad you're listening or watching or both.
Or both. It's better to watch because we're so cute. It's better to see us.
We are pretty awesome like that. And we're not full of ourselves either, as my mom used to say. So Sam, speaking of stuff that people do online, sometimes there's a TV show I watch where this guy comes in and helps a business. And if the business is kind of non-receptive to his ideas and stuff, sometimes people will go on Yelp or some of the other review sites and leave a negative review. Can a business owner sue for that?
Well, it depends. So, there is a tort called defamation, which is either libel, which is saying, which is writing something that's not true, or slander, which is saying something that's not true. But there are only limited circumstances when that can apply, because there are defenses under the First Amendment under a variety of circumstances. In the case of online reviews, the courts have generally protected what's called opinion, which is if I just say, hey, I think you're lousy, I think you're dumb, that stuff is generally protected. The exception is if the review either states facts that are not true. I issued an order and you didn't bring it to me, or you overcharged me, or implies facts that aren't true. Hey, don't trust these guys. Check your receipts, make sure they didn't overcharge you. That would be an implication of factual assertions. And if there are factual assertions like that, they're still actionable if the factual assertions are false. So either express or implied facts. So it's kind of a long-winded answer, but if generally I just go onto the site and say I give you a 1, or I don't like you, or the food's lousy, that's generally going to be regarded as opinion and protected. But if I either state or imply specific facts of things that I'm saying you did wrong, then that is no longer opinion, and you can still be sued for that.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. So just so I know, so defamation is the whole thing, right?
Right.
And then under defamation, you have libel, which is written, and you have slander, which is spoken.
Right, and really, I generally don't even say libel or slander, because effectively there's no difference between the two, and it all comes under the rubric of defamation. So libel and slander are words that I generally use. It's all defamation.
So it's all defamation.
Right.
Okay. All right. So if someone sues for, let's say, defamation of character, that's basically what you're talking about.
Right. So yeah, again, it's facts, that are untrue, that cause damage, then you can sue for them. And there are a lot of different classifications regarding that. Some are common law, and some created by the Supreme Court cases interpreting the Constitution. For example, we talked about opinion. That's a Supreme Court doctrine that said, you can't be sued for expressing an opinion if you're not claiming certain facts. Another doctrine the Supreme Court has created is protection for statements regarding public figures, or people who are or who are public servants, or people who are involved in an issue of public concern. And so in those three circumstances, the Supreme Court has set up, you can still be sued for defamation, but you have to prove a lot more than just that the information was false. You have to prove what the Supreme Court has called actual malice. And the way that is interpreted is either you're aware, that you're saying something that's false about the person, or you are reckless in the sense that you have knowledge of your lack of information as to whether it's true. So for example, if I said, you've been in 20 car accidents. I don't know if you've been in 20 car accidents or not, but I know that I don't know whether you have or not. And so that would be an example of something that's reckless and that I could sue you for. But unless you can prove one of those things, either knowledge that the information is false or knowledge that you don't know whether it's false, you cannot be sued by a public figure or a public servant or as to an issue of public concern.
But there was an interesting case. Now, this is going back a few years. I don't know if you're familiar with this case, but years ago, the National Enquirer reported that Carol Burnett was drunk at a bar and dancing on the tables.
Right.
And normally, because she's a public figure, you don't normally sue over something like this. Is that correct?
Right.
But because she, my understanding, because she felt that was such a defamation to her character, she filed suit.
No, I mean, her ability to sue on that is not aided by, how emotionally draining it is. It's that she was able to contend that they knew it wasn't true, or that they knew that they didn't have that information, but they published a story anyway.
So how do they, we see them all the time at supermarkets where you have, how many times has Jennifer Aniston been pregnant? I know in the last 5 years or so, it's been at least 15 times. How do they get by with that? Is it just a matter that they're willing to roll the dice?
Well, there are a lot of issues that go into that, and I don't have any insight into the newsrooms of those kinds of papers. But one issue is it has to be not only not true, but it has to be defamatory. It has to be something negative. And saying that somebody is pregnant, is not necessarily something that's going to be considered defamatory. And the standards for those things change all the time. At one time, I don't know if Jennifer Aniston is single right now, but at one time saying that a single woman is pregnant would have been thought to have been something defamatory. And I would imagine that now it no longer is, because it's sort of common. And so just to say that somebody who is single is pregnant wasn't necessarily the kind of negative thing that would create a defamation claim. There's been a recent example of saying somebody's gay. In Colorado, there was a case where somebody said somebody else was gay, and the defendant was able to say, hey, there's really no defamation associated with being gay at this point. And the court found that calling somebody gay was not defamatory. There may be special circumstances, like if they're being a hypocrite or something like that about it. So don't take this as license to go out saying things about people. But generally, the courts have found that it has to be something pretty bad, and again, the standards for that are constantly changing. The other thing is that in the defamation law, there's two kinds of defamation that come along: what we call defamation per se and what we call defamation per quote. And it's very difficult if it's defamation per quote. So defamation per se has to be something that's basically really bad, like you committed a crime or something that shows a fault in your way of doing business. It has to be something that has a very specific meaning, and everything else is considered defamation per quote. If you're suing for defamation per quote, you have to prove actual damages, and that's very, very difficult to prove sometimes in defamation cases. And so, for that reason, if something is only defamatory per quote, it's hard to bring a case. Finally, to your example of these papers saying that somebody is pregnant or whatever, they rely on a claim that somebody told them this. And so they say, this person told us this.
An unnamed source.
And then they can say, and we didn't have any proof that this wasn't true. And so that's the kind of thing that I think you probably see being relied on in those kinds of things.
Okay. Well, back to kind of the online reviews or what people say, what can business owners do, or what should they do?
Well, again, if something is just an opinion, you can always, try to ask the reviewing company, Yelp or Facebook or whoever it is hosting that review, to take it down. We've had a review on our Facebook page for years, or somebody who we never did work for.
Never did work
and
for.
she just, for whatever reason, decided to give us a 1-star review. And I don't know if we've ever been able to get that taken off. But, you know, unfortunately, sometimes there's really nothing you can do. If you really want to, if it's significant enough that you really want to bring a claim and you really think it's, you know, something where you can meet all of these hurdles that I've been talking about and bring the defamation case, then you can sue what we call a John Doe complaint. You can say, I'm suing John Doe for doing this. And then you open a court case, and then you can go to the court and ask them to force Yelp or Facebook or whoever it is to turn over their information as to the identity of that person. You may be able to identify them that way. So, you know, it's a very complex and expensive way to go. But if it's, you know, really doing significant damage to your business, it might be worthwhile. You know, on the other hand, you know, doing something like that might create a public controversy. It might draw more attention to that thing than you wanted. So there's a lot to consider there, both in terms of the law and just in terms of business practice.
Well, thank you, Sam. That is some helpful information. If you would like more information, reach out to Sam directly at sam@samventola.com. If you would like to subscribe to our podcast, you can go to YouTube to our channel called Sam the Answer Man. Sam the Answer Man. And you can also follow us on several audio podcast formats such as iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify. You're kind of a fan of Spotify, aren't you?
Yeah, somebody asked me what podcast can I watch on Spotify. I said, hey, listen to ours.
Exactly. So when in doubt, Sam the Answer Man podcast. Sam has written an incredible article on this about dealing with defamation and whether it happens to you or somebody else, to you or from you. It's an interesting read. And I think they should read it, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Because gossip, I mean, sometimes that is what it boils down to for the most part, whether it's written or said, it's gossip. So maybe if we all kind of decide we're not going to do it, might be a good thing.
Yeah.
You think? Well, thank you so much for listening or watching us. We're so glad you're here, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye-bye.
If you would like to discuss your legal issue with Sam, please contact Ventola Law at 303-864-9797 or check out our website at www.ventolalaw.com. Ventola Law, mediation and legal representation at an expert level.